We're by the seaside in the Dutch North Sea dunes. It's a circuit steeped in motor racing history. It's a circuit steeped in water. From the glorious hot mountaintops of Austria, we were at the Red Bull Ring last time out, to the Netherlands, to Zandvoort, and it is raining. Hello everybody, welcome along. This is race 5 of a 14 race season for the ADAC GT Masters. Air temperature is 18.6 degrees centigrade, which is significantly cooler than it has been all week. It has been glorious, hot and sunny. And then this morning, as the cars came out for their qualifying session, it started to rain. Well, it didn't start at the beginning of the session. It started during the session. It was that man there, Mick Wieshofer, something of a veteran in GT Masters nowadays, who took advantage of those conditions and put the car on pole position. Lining up alongside him will be Jan Marszałkowski, and third, Janis Fischer. Last time you saw him, he was driving the Mad Panda Mercedes, and he has jumped back to a car that he is way more familiar with, as we say hello to a great packed stands of spectators. Janis Fischer jumping back to something he's more familiar with, i.e. a Porsche, and he has jumped across to ID Racing, the seat that was occupied by Leon Köhler for round 1, for round 2, and Klaus Bachler for round 1. So Janis Fischer, having jumped back in a Porsche, has been very competitive indeed, but the car that lines up alongside him on the grid, fourth on the grid, is the car that he was driving at Red Bull Ring last time out. Are you confused yet? I know I am. It's the Mad Panda, by far the best qualifying session of the season for Ezequiel Perez Companc, lining up fourth on the grid. They have drafted in Maxi Goetz as the second driver in that car, looking for just a little something to try and turn their fortunes around after a difficult start to the season with a best finish of 19th place. The Mad Panda Motorsport team have brought in the 2012 champion Maxi Goetz, and he will be taking over driving duties from Ezequiel Perez Companc. But Companc doing a great job in the changeable conditions in qualifying this morning. The only other driver change to tell you about is a new driver alongside Raffaele Marciello. That is in the number 48 man-filter team Landgraf Mercedes. It has been Jonathan Aberdeen up until now. Now Lorenzo Ferrari. We welcome the Italian GT Sprint and Endurance champion from last year to the grid of the ADAC GT Masters. You can see they're trying to decide, is it going to be wet weather tyres? Is it going to be slicks? Adam Weller, what do you reckon? Wet weathers, I think.
Yeah, I think it would be bold as a generous term to go out on slicks at this stage, but saying that, that looks like exactly what's going on the ID Racing Porsche. Okay, what do I know? The Pirellis do get some heat generated into them, of course, but I would say it's sub-slick conditions at the moment. They'd be begging for inters right now, but there is no such option.
No.
So there is either slicks or wets in this series, and that does create an interesting dynamic, certainly. Of course, with the slightly delayed and slightly rain-hindered qualifying earlier on, we've continued a bit of a streak here in the 2022 GT Masters season. 5 races, 5 different pole sitters. We did have the number 19 Emil Frey Lamborghini on pole for our season opening race over at Oschersleben, but now it's the turn of the 14 crew to be on the sharp end, of course, Wieshofer and Lappalainen.
The rain really has jumbled up the order as we look at the Mad Panda and the scary-ass panda that goes with it. We get to see that on the podium. That give everyone a fright, that will, all the kids running for cover. It is a jumbled-up grid, and 2 drivers that did not anticipate the conditions well this morning. Well, one of them is championship leader, Ben Green, who came into this weekend 1 point ahead of Yusufa Vega and just Yusufa Vega, but also with co-driver Nicholas Cruton at the top of the standings. But going out late in the qualifying session, just as the heavens opened, means that Ben Green starts at absolutely last on the grid. And the other of the Schubert Motorsport BMWs, driven by Jesse Krohn, is only 2 spaces in front of them. And that is courtesy of the fact that Joel Sturm has picked up a grid penalty, so he drops down, having obscured Albert Costa Balboa during qualifying and picked up that grid drop, and he separates the Schubert Motorsport BMWs. But the Schuberts were last and second from last this morning, and that's not on their regular pace. They just read the conditions wrong.
Yeah, both of the Schubert BMW crews were awaiting the opportunity to go out towards the end of the session, get some hot laps in there, not waste tyres, not waste any mileage on the car at all. Unfortunately, by the time they did send them out there, the rain was falling and neither car got a strong lap in during the session. The same can be said for the likes of the number 48 man filter team Landgraf Mercedes. Lorenzo Ferrari starting that car alongside Raffaele Marciello for the first time this season, as we say, coming in with plenty of accolades, the Italian National Series, but not a representative showing of their pace either by the time they were going in for fast laps. Already the rain was coming.
So because of the rain, we are going to be starting the race just a couple of minutes early, because race control are going to give us 2 formation laps for these cars, just to allow them to get a bit of heat into the tyres and into the brakes and to try and dry the track out a bit. Looking out of our commentary box window, the rain has actually stopped at the moment, which would probably explain why the ID Racing team were fitting slicks to the Janis Fischer car. It is not persistent rain, it is showers. And even if the rain stops now, I would not be surprised if we got another shower within the next hour or so that this race runs in. You're looking there at the number 29 car, Yusufa Vega, who is currently just 1 point down from the championship leaders, Niklas Kruten and Ben Green. He is second with 57 points. So I say 1 point, 3 points down, I beg your pardon, from Niklas Kruten and Ben Green in the championship. He's starting a lot further forwards than them on the grid. He's starting 5th on the grid, so he has a great opportunity to retake the lead in the championship. His co-driver, Ricardo Feller, was absent from the Red Bull Ring. Dries Vanthoor doing a great job, but Ricardo Feller, having gone into the Red Bull Ring at the top of the point standings, is now down in 8th, and it shows you how competitive this series is. As we look out of the window of the Fabian Schiller car, the Drago Racing Team ZVO Mercedes, that he will be sharing with Jules Gounon. You saw Jan Marszałkowski there. This probably one of the biggest moments in his racing career, I should think, starting on the front row. He was a total entertainer in GT4 last year. He's sharing driving duties with the very experienced Daniel Juncadella this year, another of the Drago Racing Team ZVO Mercedes, but starting on a slippery track on the front row, going into Tarzan on the outside line. He's going to have to hold it all together, isn't he?
He is. I mean, you've got to bear in mind, Marszałkowski, I mean, he was still racing karts in 2019. Had a great run of form, as you said, in the GT4 Championship, Germany. Last year, moving into GT3 this season, I had a feeling, seeing him, of course, teaming up with Danny Juncadella, I thought that would be great for his progression as the year goes on. And sure enough, he's right there at the sharp end, but certainly, as you say, one of the most high-pressure scenarios you could have in only your 3rd weekend in GT3 competition.
And that was Maxi Goetz you just saw laughing and smiling at the camera. He has every reason to smile, because if Ezequiel Perez-Campan can keep that car at the front end of the grid, front end of the pack, once this race has started, when Maxi Goetz takes over, he is a driver who knows how to win races. He is the 2012 champion in ADAC GT Masters, and they will be, without a doubt, contenders for the podium. You can see the drivers currently getting ready in their cars. The engines will be starting shortly. This unique Le Mans type lineup that we have in the ADAC GT Masters, wonderful to look at, and it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when those engines burst into life. We're at Circuit Zandvoort. We are about 20 kilometers from Amsterdam, located in the North Sea dunes of the Netherlands. A really unique circuit, and it is unique because of the banking. 19 degrees banking in turn 3 and in turns 14. And that is something that the drivers only experience at this circuit, something with that much banking. It is a circuit that is 4.259 kilometers round, 14 turns, 10 to the right and 4 to the left, heavily redesigned in anticipation of the return of Formula One, and it is a very popular track on the calendar. We have two local drivers. We have Thierry Vermeulen, who is sponsored by Verstappen.com, and you may have heard the name Verstappen in this area once or twice before. And in the number 33 car, which is of course the number that Max Verstappen runs when he's not world champion, Vermeulen is a contender in this. He's only 19 years old and he's local to Zandvoort. Another of the Dutch drivers is Nicky Katsberg, the winner of the 2020 Nürburgring 24-hour race. Actually doesn't have a great deal of experience, as we say hello to Ricardo Feller. Welcome back. Yes, Nicky Katsberg doesn't have loads of experience here at the Zandvoort circuit, but he will be strong. Having said that, a lot of work to do from the back of the grid because, of course, he is sharing with Jesse Krohn. The engines are now running, and very, very shortly the cars will start their first of two formation laps. This really is going to be anybody's race, particularly if it starts raining partway through. Albert Costa Balboa, who was blocked by Joel Sturm in qualifying, who was visibly, as is always the way with Albert, very emotional in the car, almost distraught, I would say. He starts kind of mid-pack, and it's on the 7th row. He's going to have a lot of work to do from there, but sharing with Jack Aitken, I'd say he's going to be one to watch because the Lamborghini is very strong around here, isn't it?
Yeah, the Lamborghini, the mid-engine cars in general are strong around this circuit. How interesting that we had a 5-time windsurfing champion giving us the minute board when the conditions are quite so poor. 2 formation laps then, as is often standard protocol when you've got a wet circuit and they haven't practiced in the wet prior to this point. One person who did get a lot of practice, quote-unquote, earlier on was Christian Engelhardt. He was one of very few drivers out there that persisted in the wet conditions after the qualifying session was all but stopped by these conditions during the first qualifying session. And now we've got a car. That's one of the one of the Drago cars.
No, that's Marshall-Kovsky.
Oh no! So that is the Drago Racing Team ZVO car, and he's had a huge impact with the barriers. You can see where the Armco has been disrupted by that Mercedes. Oh, the number 8 car, Marshall-Kovsky. We spoke about the pressure of this scenario, and now we're going to get a look at what happened.
Putting the power on, boots it, loses the back end, bang, into the barrier. This is going to bring the formation laps to a stop without a doubt. What a shame. I was so excited to see how Marshall-Kovsky would do from the front, and it just shows you how slippery that track is with those slick tyres. I should think that Marshall-Kovsky probably just wants to run away and hide somewhere at the moment. What a devastating thing to happen. His best performance, visor down. And that was his best performance, the qualifying. He'd done all the hard work and doesn't even get to take the green flag. I'm sure that he's okay, apart from the emotions, I should think. The marshal's just attending to him. So we have lost our outside front row car as we anticipated. The red flags are out and we haven't even got going yet. Don't know if the barriers are going to require a bit of attention, but one thing's for sure, there's a lot of debris on the circuit. The cars were instructed to return to the starting grid. Look at the dent he's put in that barrier as well. A fair amount of damage to both the barrier and the car. Marshall-Kovsky, oh dear, you can't even start to imagine what emotions he must be going through, and he will be utterly distraught about that. You can just see from the body language as he climbs from the Drago Racing Team ZVO Mercedes AMG, and such an easy mistake to make.
I mean, it's so bad on so many levels for the team as well. Of course, they only arrived in the championship this year. The team of the Zukowski and Van Ommen combination that is now running this team, and this could, from that starting position, have been that team's first victory, and sadly it's ended up in less than stellar circumstances. So easy to do on cold tyres for Marszałkowski. Obviously, we're not even sure what rubber they're on. We saw the 44 ID Racing Porsche being switched on to and off of slicks various times in the build to the race, and well, whether he's on slicks or on wets, he found the bad, tried to get the power down, failed to do so, and now you can just see the emotion pouring out of the poor man, and it's such a shame for the youngster.
Oh, that's out on turn 2, and I just have so much empathy for him, because this was his real moment to shine. An absolute entertainer and an immensely skilled driver in GT4 last year. He ran the drivers that eventually won the championship all the way to the very last race, and has very high hopes here in GT Masters. He will bounce back from it, there is no doubt, because he is an absolute talent. He will learn from it, but it's going to be a bit sore, and he will be pleased just to get today behind him. We're looking again on board. Listen. Oh. He just blips the accelerator, and the car, I mean, you wouldn't believe that's just the smallest of blips, the accelerator, and the car just turns around, and into the fence he goes. And that is the penalty with slick tyres on a slippery track. Of course, tyre warmers not permitted in GT Masters, so they would have been cold tyres. They would have come out of the pit lane around Tarzan, which is turn 1. And we're looking again. Oh, it almost feels a bit cruel looking at the driver while this is happening, doesn't it?
Yeah, the critical thing there is the very moment he put the throttle down, he also put some more steering input into the wheel. And if you're steering and accelerating on cold tyres, unfortunately that can sometimes be the result on slick surfaces like that. And you see there, as you mentioned, the visor going down.
There was like it's quite cruel looking at the camera pointing at the driver, but there was this kind of 5 or 6 seconds where he almost couldn't take it in of what happened. I mean, qualifying was first thing this morning. He's probably been psyching himself up all morning for this race, and for that to happen, and I mean, it's the kind of thing he probably has woken up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night, fearing something like that for years, crashing out from the front row on the formation lap, and it's just the kind of thing that is the worst nightmare. We say hello to the famous Teddy with the sunglasses, the Turn 10 Teddy. It features every year. He's been longer than I have. He's been here, and the Turn 10 Teddy is a celeb, and he's here to enjoy all the action here at Zandvoort this weekend. We're just waiting for the number 8 Drago Racing Team ZVO Mercedes to be cleared. Whilst all that has been going on, well, actually, the sun has come out and the track is drying out rapidly. So anybody who wasn't on slicks at the start probably will be on now. I reckon most of them would have been on slicks, to be quite honest, because the rain had stopped by the time the cars were put on the ground. And I think that it's a drying track. They say you need to be on the tyre for the track conditions as they are, and it had stopped raining, the track was drying, so I would suggest that most were probably on slicks anyway. Of course, this is a gift for Janis Fitcher. He can't move up to second on the grid, but he is effectively second because there will be a space on the front row, and there will also be an empty space in front of Ezequiel Perez-Compang. So his 4th place becomes 3rd as a result of this particular incident. The wrecked Mercedes is taken back to the garage, and the Drago Racing Team ZVO will no doubt be working on that car as soon as it arrives back in the garage. And hopefully somebody will find Jan Marszałkowski and put an arm around his shoulder and just encourage him, because he will bounce back and be stronger for it in the long run. So the start is delayed. The cars are on the grid. We don't have notification of when we are due to get going again. Now, hopefully, if there is not too much damage to the fence, we will be rolling again fairly soon. But the cars, once again, put back into their starting positions. And hopefully, that'll be the end of the rain for this race. Now, the Janis Fischer car, they're just putting it back because I think he had stopped on the grid in P2. He thought that with there being a gap there, it was his right to move up a position, but no, he needs to start in the third position on the grid, even though there is a gap in second place. So ID Racing, it's been great to welcome ID Racing to the series. They did start great to see everybody just encouraging Jan Marszałkowski as he goes back to the pits. ID Racing, they've joined the grid this year. Iris Dorr, of course, the principal of that team. It did start off as a collaboration with Herbert Motorsport for Oschersleben, and we did have Robert Renauer and Klaus Bachler in the seat of that car. There was a parting of the ways, and Herbert Motorsport not involved at the moment. We sincerely hope they do come back into GT Masters because they are part of the fixtures and fittings of this series, real legends. And of course, we've lost Klaus and Robert as a result of that. The last round at the Red Bull Ring, Jackson Evans was joined by Leon Köhler, and it was a baptism of fire for both of them. Now, Leon Köhler, it was just for the one race. So now Janis Fischer, who has already proven his worth with that qualifying, sits alongside Jackson Evans at the wheel of that car. It's like watching torture, the replays, isn't it? It's like, should we just bring on can we bring on a basket of kittens or something just to brighten everybody up? Because, oh dear, this, oof. And yeah, that is just, and I should think that Jan Marszałkowski will be replaying this in his head probably for the next 12 months. And, oh, yeah. It doesn't get any easier the more you watch it, does it?
No, it doesn't. But the thing is that this incident will change the face of this race significantly. I, for one, was expecting a very pensive first lap of racing, given most on slick tyres and still very much slippery conditions. With every passing minute, the circuit gets a little bit drier, although not that much, because obviously we don't have cars going around at speed on the circuit. And that may also go against some of the drivers who, as I was mentioning, unfortunately, as this incident happened for Marszałkowski, obviously Christian Engelhardt was pounding the laps in during that wet qualifying session. I thought, well, he may be able to use that data and that knowledge from this morning to carve up through the order in the early stages of the race. But if it continues to get drier and drier and we don't get to go racing for a few minutes more, then that could change the complexion of the race once again.
Of course, it could just start raining again.
Of course.
There are 9 drivers on the grid who have had experience of this circuit on these tyres in the last 7 days. That's because the GT World Challenge was here. Identical cars, identical tyres, and they were racing here last weekend. 9 drivers on the grid who were in that race as well. And we were speculating yesterday that would they have an advantage? Yes, there are tyre changes in GT World Challenge, but you do feel as though there may have been data that could have been gathered, experience, and not to mention just getting into the rhythm of driving around this circuit that might benefit them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's always something to be gained from that fresh of an experience, especially on these new for 22 Pirelli tyres that we've got. However, I mean, it is a different series, and I do think that the second part of this race is going to end up looking like the great unknown, given that we do run the tyres for the duration of the race. New formation lap then to start at, well, 13 minutes past 1 here in the local time here in the Netherlands. So just the 5 minutes or so before we get the cars rolling, and just the 1 formation lap now as well. So we aren't too far away from getting a race started.
As our pole sitter Mick Wiesover, who was in the thick of the action at the Red Bull Ring last time out and attracted some unwanted attention from the race steward. So looking to make amends for that. And he is sharing driving duties with Konsta Lapalainen as Maxi Goetz, well, smiling and throwing his hands into the air. That is a Mercedes that he is not going to have to race against, that is put back in the garage. Good bit is they've got it back to the garage, and the team can get started on that and start repairing that. The good bit about GT Masters is we get 2 races over the weekend, and so they get to do it all again tomorrow. It'll be Daniel Juncadella who will qualify that car tomorrow morning, all being well, and Marszałkowski, hopefully, if he can get behind the wheel tomorrow afternoon, will be able to put the ghost of June the 25th behind him and move on. Looking there at Yusuf Avega, there's a driver who has also come from GT4 and has thoroughly impressed. I mean, sitting alongside Ricardo Feller in the car that won the championship last year, and the driver who won the championship last year alongside him, that is a great thing to learn from, but he still has to drive the thing, and to qualify as high up as he has done, 5th on the grid, that is really good. Yusuf Avega, one of the real up-and-coming stars. He's the highest placed Audi on the grid. Audi looking for their 6th win here at Zandvoort and looking for their 50th win in the ADAC GT Masters. So they have a great record here at Zandvoort.
Yeah, absolutely they do, and it would be very interesting to retain that over 10% of their wins, if they can keep that stat going, over 10% of their ADAC GT Masters wins coming at this one venue. Does kind of corroborate the theory or the knowledge that some pass around the paddock that this is a mid-engine friendly circuit. But then, of course, you got the mighty Mercs right there towards the sharp end as well to disprove that theory. Yeah. So no, it is interesting. Obviously, with the balance of performance as it is all very equal anyway, but strengths and weaknesses inevitable with the variety of different cars we've got here. You know, engine capacity across the grid varies by over 2 litres. Yep. That's a lot. Obviously, completely different layouts in terms of where the engine sits and so on as well. And there you see the debrief ongoing down at the ZVO pit.
That looked like Jules Gounon looking on to me. Of course, he is the other of the Drago Racing team drivers, sharing with Fabian Schiller, who has qualified about 2/3 of the way down the grid. I actually think one driver who his heart is racing at the moment is probably Lorenzo Ferrari. You haven't mentioned much about him, alongside Raffaele Marciello. And you saw how much emotion Marciello had in race 2 at the Red Bull Ring. He does not tolerate anything other than winning, and Ferrari is going to have a lot of work to do from near the back of the pack, and in these conditions he's another driver who's going to have to work hard just to keep his head, not allow the pressure of the situation to get to him, and to bring the thing in for the mandatory pit stop and hand it over to Raffaele Marciello with 4 wheels still on the wagon. We're looking out of the window from the perspective of Yusuf Avega. The engines are running. I know the engines are running because our commentary box has just started shaking. And there is the Mad Panda. Now, what are those? Those are wet tyres on the Mad Panda. So my prediction that some drivers might be on slicks was very wrong. I would say this is a real roll of the dice. Zico Perez Campang starting on wet tyres. I'm not entirely sure. Well, when you see what happened to Marszałkowski, he's going to need to really make hay while the sun shines, so to speak, in the opening stages of this race.
For now, you could see it either way in terms of slicks versus wets with the way it is. I mean, it's certainly more dry than wet, but it is not a dry racing surface. In these conditions, as we have them now, I'd argue that driver confidence is of the utmost importance, but we'll see.
Let's have a look at the starting grid then. It is Mick Wiesover who starts on pole position with a space alongside him as a result of Marszałkowski's accident. On row 2, Janis Fitcher has Ezequiel Perez Campang alongside on wet tyres. Yusuf Avega and Simon Riker occupy row 3, and they are ahead of the 4th row, which is occupied by Tim Zimmerman and Kim Louis Schramm. Great qualifying from Kim Louis Schramm there. Next row, Max Paul and Arthur Rougier for Emil Frey Racing. Row 6 of the grid, Christian Engelhardt working so hard in qualifying. Salman Vega, the very young Salman Vega, learning from Christopher Haase, the master. Florian Spengler and Albert Costa Balboa, the emotional Balboa, on row 7. Row 8, Fabian Schiller and local boy Thierry Vermeulen in the Car Collection Motorsport Audi. Row 9 of the grid, Luca Engsler, a bit further back than he wanted to be, and newcomer Lorenzo Ferrari. A lot of pressure on his shoulders. Frank Bird from the UK has Jesse Krohn alongside him in that BMW after a difficult qualifying session. Joel Sturm, courtesy of a 5-place grid drop, and bringing up the rear, championship leader Ben Green in the other of the Schubert Motorsport BMWs. This formation lap, well, it's going to be critical. We need to get heat into those tyres, into those brakes. Are we going to get round the first couple of laps without a safety car? We've got further already than we did on the previous attempt to start the race, and you can see that the clock has started ticking already. It is a 60-minute race plus 1 lap. And there is a mandatory pit stop and driver change required. Every car will need to visit the pits between 25 and 35 minutes into the race. There's that 10-minute window. Every car must visit the pits for a mandatory stop and driver change. Tyre changes are not permitted unless they are changing from wets to slicks or slicks to wets. Out of Lyondike, which is turn 14, it's banked, it's very banked, and the cars look supreme as they roar out of turn 14, out on to the pit straight. Look at the dry patches on the track. Now the cars need to remain in line. Someone tell that at the back of the pack. The green lights are on and we are racing. A great start from Mick Wiesofer and a great start from Janis Fischer. Here comes Ezequiel Perez-Cabanc. Remember, he's on those wet weather tyres. He's likely to have a lot of traction. So round the outside he comes in towards turn 2. The rest of the cars come. It's Cabanc who leads the way. So Ezequiel Perez-Cabanc, remember, he's on a different tyre strategy, but he leads Mick Wiesofer. The rest of the cars come streaming through up into the banking of turn 3. And now we head towards turn 4, going 3 abreast even in these conditions. And all of the cars have made it so far on board with Thierry Vermeulen looking out of the window of the Car Collection Motorsport Audi. And a good first few corners, but it's Ezequiel Perez-Cabanc who leads the way.
This section of the circuit looks almost dry, though, so I don't know how it's going to continue how the circuit is going to continue to evolve over the stint for Perez-Cabanc. Certainly, through those first few corners, the decision to not be on dry tyres was beneficial. But give it 10 or 15 minutes, we may see changes. So a bit of a moment there for the 69 car. That was the Car Collection Motorsport car, Florian Spengler, getting bullied down the order a little bit there after what looked to be a slightly sideways moment out of turn 9. We've still got cars side by side further back in the pack, but the front end of the order seems to have stabilised a little.
Look at Christian Engelhardt actually monstering that Porsche and doing all that he can to get past Samuel Vega. The two man-filter, Team Landgraf man-filter Mercedes running at the back of the pack at the moment, and they're fighting each other. But the cars are all running, all in the right direction. This is going to be a race very much about strategy. Here comes Mick Wiesofer, just having a look into Tarzan, which is turn 1. It's the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit, and Cabanc going very deep into the corner. The Lamborghini goes sailing through, and Wiesofer is back in the lead.
Oh, just ran it a bit too wide. I think he was looking for some wet surfaces there, Ezequiel Perez-Cabanc. He's starting to fall through the order. There goes Fischer as well to take second place. It's side by side. Oh. They touch as they run down this flat out section of circuit. Just about living to see another day there, both of them in that contact. And now trying to go around the outside comes Riker in the 54 car. Vega involved in this one as well. They're all closing in on the Mad Panda. And well, maybe the chances of victory going extinct very early in the race for Mad Panda Motorsport. Yusufu Vega is through. The 27 car, Kim-Louis Schramm is through. Costa Balboa as well. Oh dear, I think those tyres, that tyre decision is starting to work against them.
I think it probably is. Driver under investigation. He's going to be emotional again. Albert Costa Balboa from an inaccurate grid position, and he has just received a penalty lap. That means he has to visit the penalty box That is a 200-meter box which he needs to pass through at no more than 50 kilometers an hour. And that is on the exit of turn 12, and that you can see the box there just on the right-hand side of the circuit. He will have to pass through that at no more than 50 kilometers an hour as a penalty for an inaccurate grid position. Look how quickly the Mad Panda is dropping. I think he's into the pits. He's going to need to change onto slick tyres, surely. Here he comes into the pit lane. It was a gamble. It's one that didn't pay off, but we now have fights for position up and down the pack.
Yeah, Kim-Louis Schramm just went around the outside of Yusufa Vega for 4th place. So we're seeing Schramm on the go at the moment. There he is now in 4th place in that Rutronic car. And Costa Balboa, I think he might have got the bad news through the radio, you know, because suddenly he's on a mission and pushing through the order. Of course, he's going to lose places. Getting a penalty lap at this stage of the race is anything but ideal. But the one that's being penalised the most right now is Ezequiel Perez Companc. They rolled the dice. Maybe they looked at that weather radar and thought, there's a 50-50 chance here. Unfortunately, they bet on red and it's gone black.
Kim-Louis Schramm is responding to the pressure from Albert Costa Balboa, the fastest of anybody so far in Sector 1. Schramm in 5th place on the track. Costa Balboa in 6th. That will soon drop down as a result of the visit to the penalty box. And there will be an emotional moment for Albert Costa Balboa. You saw him there just in the driving seat. It has been a day that has not gone to plan so far. He was on a very hot lap in qualifying this morning, as we see some great onboard shots here. He was on a hot lap this morning and then got impeded by the Allied Racing Porsche and was visibly upset by that. And now a visit to the penalty box as well. It's Mick Wiesover who leads the way, and he crosses the line 1.9 seconds ahead of Janis Fitcher. So good driving there. There is the 71 of Max Paul on the... is he on the inside, or is that the BMW coming around the outside? I think it's the BMW coming around the outside. So the number 20 car, Jesse Krohn, up to 10th place already. Ben Green up to 17th. So the Schubert Motorsport BMWs are going forwards.
Yes, and they need to, after what happened to them in qualifying. Both cars not getting a competitive lap in, or really a lap in at all, before the rain came in qualifying. We have another car that rolled the dice. That's the Frankie Bird-driven 84-man filter Mamba car. The Landgraf team then had a bit of a split strategy across their 2 cars by the look of it. And unfortunately, Frankie Bird is also in to take on Slicks. We get a look at the start of the race again there, and you can see Costa Balboa there, kind of centre of circuit, where you're meant to be in 2x2 formation, and well, unfortunately that's cost him a penalty through the 200-meter 50-kilometer zone that sits there on the exit of turn 12.
Yes, the stewards don't take too kindly to people ducking out of line, and that penalty was incoming. Looking on the view from Fabian Schiller, a little bit of contact with Thierry Vermeulen, and continuing very much on his way. Some great camera angles here. The splitter cam. Oh, that gives you a great idea of what it's like heading into Tarzan, which is turn 1. And Luca Engsler getting a bit of a slide on there, and there is Jesse Krohn coming round the outside in that replay. And just a lot of panel rubbing. That is the problem when you qualify that far down the order. There is an awful lot of contact and bumping that goes on. From the view of Yusufa Vega, Simon Riker, we haven't mentioned him yet. He is in 3rd place. By far his best performance of the season so far. The number 54 East Talent Racing Audi really showing well.
And obviously things going bad to worse for Drago Racing Team ZVO, because the 4 car has not been going around recently. I don't think it came back into the pit lane, but it's obviously come to a halt somewhere on the circuit down there at the bottom of the timing sheets. It looks like it's somewhere between Sector 1 and Sector 2. And we're getting a replay of what happened to it then. Yeah. Was just commenting on the fact that it had fallen down the timing screen, and there's a look at why. The 4 car coming to a halt there on the exit of turn 3. Didn't get any further than Hugenholtz on that lap, and Schiller looks like he is out of the race early on.
So not a great race for Traeger Racing Team ZVO. Both of their cars in strife, and Jules Gounon, who's another who likes to wear his heart on his sleeves, will not be chuffed about that. And the stewards will no doubt be taking a look at that. We'll see if there's any penalty incoming or whether it's considered to be a self-inflicted wound. But the number 4 car now stationary out on track and looks to be going absolutely no further. He did well not to be collected. Dearie me, that is a Code Brown moment when those come up behind you, isn't it?
It really is, and Balboa has served his penalty, so we're getting a replay look at that. Where does he end up as a result of it? He's currently dropping through the order on the timing screen, so this was just a few seconds ago, and he's dropped down as far as 15th place. So it is really costly in the early stages when everyone's packed together. That's when you really, really don't want those penalties.
So Mick Wieshofer leading the way, 2.6 seconds. And still action up on turn 3 as Albert Costa Balboa now trying to come back. It's Thierry Vermeulen in front of him. Vermeulen, who knows his way around the circuit, has done many, many laps around the Zandvoort circuit. Ahead of them was Luca Engsler. Luca Engsler in 13th place. We saw him having a bit of a wobble earlier, but a solid drive from him, but further back than he needed to be. Of course, having won the championship along with co-driver run a race along with Patrick Niederhauser at Oschersleben. We saw a car going slowly there. That was Frankie Bird. So another Mercedes falling by the wayside, or was he just getting out of the way of the traffic?
He was, yes. So I thought for a minute that was the 48 car slowing. Thankfully not. It was the 84 car, of course. They came in for wet to lap later, and that's resulted in them going a lap down, which is hugely painful for their folks in the rest of the race. And contact between the 33 and the 63. Vermeulen and Costa Balboa having a moment there. And, well, it continues to get worse for Costa Balboa. He will have lost positions. He was going for 14th. He'll have dropped down to 17th or 18th there.
Jack Aitken is in the pit saying, please look after the car, I want to have a go today. You see a graphic there at the bottom of your screen, race laps for Wales in Africa. It's a corporate social responsibility initiative of BWT in cooperation with the ADAC as we continue to look at fighting along the pit straight. For every race lap completed in the ADAC GT Masters, BWT and the ADAC are jointly donating €4 to Be Water Mission. And the project is to build wells in mainly rural areas of the Gambia and Tanzania, providing access to clean drinking water. Last year, 60 grand was raised. This year, at the last count, I don't remember what the graphic said, but it was many thousands. Looking at Albert Costa Balboa on board, and he glances at the camera. Anybody see that? Yes, we were watching you, Albert.
Yeah, 13,400, the magic number at the moment for the race laps for Wales Africa project. Just to say, as that collision happened, the 33 car got a drive-through penalty for the collision with the 4. It's now under investigation for the collision with the 63. So Vermeulen, on the 33's home turf, is having a bit of a troubling stint so far.
I guess when you're in front of the home crowd, you want to put on a good show, and that's what he's trying to do. Well, it's entertainment anyway. So we are 46 minutes remaining in this race, and a drive-through penalty for Thierry Vermeulen. So not a penalty lap, a drive-through penalty that will relegate him to the absolute back of the pack. So the stewards deciding he was entirely responsible for that moment. Meanwhile, Mick Wieshofer, I've renamed him, 3.355 seconds over Janis Fitcher. That Lamborghini is looking mighty as Thierry Vermeulen comes into the pits, keeping to the speed limit, which is 50 kilometers an hour, and out onto the track, and he will drop. Here comes our leader, and he has what is a eternity between him and second place by GT Masters standards. A 3.3 second lead is quite something. Just looking back through the pack, Christian Engelhardt, that's notable, up to 8th. Jesse Krohn in the Schubert Motorsport BMW up to 10th. That really is spectacular. Ben Green is still in 17th at the moment, but just keep an eye on some of the big names further down. Albert Costa Balboa in 15th. He would have gained a position because of the drive-through penalties and things, but Balboa a lot further back than he wanted to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, Ben Green, the championship leader coming into this one, along with his teammate Nicolas Cruton. They would love to get further up the order. They'd like to follow in the footsteps of Jesse Krohn, who has had a fabulous stint to this point. As it stands, they are going to fall well out of that top step in the championship battle. The driver who's solo in second in the points is Yusufa Vega, of course, because he's had a couple of different co-drivers so far this year, and Yusufa Vega just 3 points back. This could be a hugely profitable day for him, but look at this scrap going on further back in the order. This is the other Ovega, Salman Ovega, coming under pressure from Christian Engelhardt. There's a bit of an experience difference between the two of them, but can Engelhardt find a way past Salman?
Salman Ovega, the youngest person in the field by some distance, taking all of the banking and maybe just a bit more. Christian Engelhardt, Max Paul also there. There's a bit of is that debris on the track? Yes, it is. Been scooped along. Drivers need to be careful because that could cut a tyre very easily. So Ovega in the 7th place. He's sharing driving duties with Christopher Haase, who is mentoring him this year. There is the other of the defending champions in GT Masters, the #1 car. In fact, it's Tim Zimmerman at the moment, and it will be Christopher Mies, who is the defending champion, who will have a stint in that seat. The number 22 car, Joel Sturm, he's done a good job. Remember, he had that grid penalty, and he has found his way back up through the pack, having started right at the back, and he's up into 12th place in the Porsche.
It looked like the front bodywork on that car was maybe running a little bit low and bouncing off the tarmac, and I believe that debris came off of Jesse Krohn's car. Jesse Krohn was ahead of Sturm at the time, I think, and I wonder if maybe there was a bit of contact between the two of them, because certainly it looks like it's a little bit loose, the front bodywork on that Porsche, and it was the BMW that allowed some carbon fibre to depart coming off the banking at turn 3.
Mick Wiesover continues to stretch his legs. 4.1 seconds over second place Janis Fitcher. Simon Riker is 1.7 seconds behind Fitcher. Then Kim Louis Schramm having a very solid race. Then Yusufa Vega, Artur Rougier, and then this battle here. 7th place, Salman Ovega, Christian Engelhardt, Max Paul. It's amazing when they go right up the banking. It's like watching NASCAR. Really spectacular stuff, allowing the drivers to get a really solid run out of turn 3 and creating opportunities for overtaking, also creating opportunities to end up in the barrier. It's an unusual discipline racing around this circuit at Zandvoort. The very banked Arie Luyendyk, turn 14, can be taken flat out, which means that it effectively extends the length of the pit straight for the drivers, giving them a better overtaking opportunity into turn 1, the Tarzan turn, and that is the best overtaking opportunity on the circuit. Looking at Yusuf Vega, and that's from Yusuf Vega at Artur Rougier in the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini.
I must say, that second very, very banked corner, Hugenholtz, turn 3 of the lap, to me, it almost reminds me of the Fiat test track on top of the factory. It's such a tight, banked corner. Feels like something out of the Italian Job sometimes, watching them go through that section of the circuit. 6th gear at almost 260 kilometers an hour in the slipstream there for Yusufa Vega, as he continues to press on there behind Kim Louis Schramm. Of course, we've got that classic tale as old of time going on for Ovega. He's got pressure from behind in the form of Rougier. He's got Schramm up ahead. If he goes offensive, he'll very likely have to go defensive right after.
Fighting up and down the grid. It is the ADAC GT Masters race 5 of this 14 race championship, and we are a little over 5 minutes away from the pit window opening. That will be a 10-minute window in which every car must come into the pits for a mandatory stop and driver change, as Christian Engelhardt finally monsters Salman Ovega into a mistake. Now he's going to get hung out to dry, because Max Paul, I have to say, Ovega did very well to try and come back in there, but now Paul is through. Jesse Krohn is going to be there as well. Joel Sturm is going, let me into some of the action, and Ovega gets together with the BMW. I think they've survived. I haven't seen where Jesse Krohn is, but he's still showing up on the screen, so hopefully all good there. But that was a lively couple of corners for them. Now Jesse Krohn has fallen into the clutches of Tim Zimmermann, so that move did not stick. And Joel storming through into that position behind the Vega car as well. Brilliant stuff. So Vega, he did well not to lose more positions.
And Zimmermann is one of very few people here who can attack, because the car behind him is a lap down. There's not going to be a move made there. Side by side then it is between Zimmermann and Jesse Krohn. Zimmermann tries to find a way to the inside. Jesse won't let that happen though, as continuing to pressure is the Audi driver Zimmermann in the #1 car. Although actually I correct myself, because Ferrari's got through into 13th on the last lap. I thought that was Frankie Bird behind these two. It's not. It's Ferrari. Wow. So Lorenzo Ferrari trying to find a way through as well, and through has gone Zimmermann. So Zimmermann around the outside on the banking at Hugenholtz, and wow, what a scrap this is, just outside the top 10.
And what a great drive from Ferrari on his debut, although he's got Luca Engstler now filling his mirrors. But Ferrari, who started towards the back of the pack, running in 13th place, looking like a veteran in this at the moment, as he hassles the far more experienced Jesse Krohn. Remember, Jesse Krohn is carrying a weight penalty as a result of his second place finish at the Red Bull Ring last time out. There is a success ballast as we ride on board with Albert Costa Balboa. He never gives up. In 15th place, make that 14th briefly, and he is alongside Luca Engstler. Now he's got his nose in front, but Engstler has the line through the corner, but Albert Costa Balboa muscles his way through, elbows out. Albert Costa Balboa up to 14th place, but now Engstler is fighting back. I think it's a brave man who gets in the way of Albert Costa Balboa this afternoon. He's on a mission. Engstler just getting it a little bit wrong into turn 13. A bit of a wobble on. He drops back, and now suddenly he's in the clutches of Florian Spengler, and the Florian Spengler car now challenging Engstler.
Ironic battle this. Luca Engstler with Florian Spengler all over the back of him. Spengler debuted in 2011 in GT Masters for Team Engstler. So he's familiar with Luca, I'm sure, and those two having a little bit of contact there. You saw a little bit of bodywork briefly dislodged on Luca Engstler's car, but seemingly no harm, no foul. Now behind those two is Frankie Bird. I'm right on the second occasion, the second of the Mamba liveried cars, and it looks as though Engstler's got a hold of the situation over Spengler for now, but I think that's very interesting. Some 11 years after Spengler debuted with Team Engstler, run by Luca's father. Suddenly they're fighting each other on track.
I did a little sharp intake of breath there as we were looking down towards turn 6, and Ferrari was getting the wheels off the ground of that Mercedes. Fantastic stuff. Is this rallying? I don't know. He was monstrous through there, and Ferrari looking like a veteran, and I should think Raffaele Marciello will be chuffed to bits with his performance. The other of the Manfilter team Landgraf Mercedes with Frankie Bird at the wheel, and he is a lap down in 20th position. So Florian Spengler not being challenged there for position on track. In the background is Ben Green, the championship leader, still in 17th place. He is also carrying a success ballast on account of his win at Red Bull Ring last time out, but that ballast may be not helping him on his way. The ballast he's carrying is 20 kilos, by the way. First 20 kilos, second 10 kilos, third 5 kilos. And they have to carry that weight, not in qualifying, but in the race, the following race. And so Ben Green carrying a little bit more weight around with him at the moment.
Yeah, always tricky. It can affect the balance of the car significantly, 20 kilos of weight. And certainly that's seemingly hampering the progress of the number 10 Schubert car. It is so bumpy up at T6 and turn 7, isn't it? Goodness me. The Rob Slottermacher corner. Rob was a stalwart here in the 1970s, and one would get the feeling that that surface hasn't been changed much since the 1970s with the number of bumps we're seeing. 10 seconds, though, until the pit window opens. I don't want the pit window to open. Look at the scrapping we've got between these cars further back in the order. Bit of rally crossing enforced there from Ovega. Sturm very ungenerous with the track space there.
So Ovega certainly learning the hard way here in the ADAC GT Masters, and Great stuff, great driving. Right, pit window is open, so every car needs to visit the pits within the next 10 minutes. There is a minimum pit stop time of 65 seconds. So the car must not be stationary for less, well, not stationary, pit entry to pit exit, less than 65 seconds. If they do that, they will pick up a penalty. That is the significance of the ticking down numbers at the side of your graphic. So if any of those little grey peas turn red, there's every chance that the stewards will be taking a look. Mad Panda into the pits for the second time in this race. And of course, tyre change is not permitted from dry to dry tyres. We welcome back to ADAC GT Masters Maxi Gertz, the 2012 champion, jumping on board the number 90 Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes AMG. And he takes over from Ezequiel Perez Companc. A very heavy regulated pit stop, only 2 mechanics allowed to work on the car at any one time. That is the 27 car. It's Dennis Marshall who takes over from Kim Louis Schramm, who has done a great and sterling job in the first half of this race, as we look at Albert Costa Balboa continuing to work his way back up through the pack. Although Ferrari in 12th, Lorenzo Ferrari in 12th place, is really proving his worth as he is fighting with Jesse Krohn. That's Costa Balboa looking to the inside of that Mercedes, and he takes that position away. So Costa Balboa up into 12th place.
Cars exiting the pits just behind our race leader. Wieshofer continues on in the 14 car as our race leader at the moment. We've talked about all the excitement going on around the circuit. Mick Wieshofer hasn't really been a part of it. He's just kind of driven away from the rest of the field. We said 3.5 seconds last time we updated the gap between Wieshofer and Feature. It's now 8 seconds last time across the line. Wieshofer has had an incredible stint in the 14 car. Zimmerman in, so he'll hand over to Christopher Mies as the window continues.
Ben Green also into the pits, and he'll be handing over to Niklas Cruton. This is very strategic. It's not just a case of coming in when you feel like it. Very much needing to decide when is the best opportunity. If the car is running in traffic, it might be the team want to bring them in early and try and do an undercut of the cars in front. If the car is running in open road, it might be they want to leave them out longer to allow the driver to make the most of that space in front of them. What you don't want to do is put the car back out in the traffic if you can help it. Mick Wieshofer, who leads this race by 8 seconds from Janis Fitcher. I think he is most likely going to be staying out quite late in the window before he hands over to Konsta Lapalainen. The engines are bursting back into life for those that have come in for pit stops. The technology that is available to these teams to not go below that minimum pit stop time, to the extent that if it looks like they are going to go below that minimum time, they can slow down as they head towards the pit exit line. The timing is critical because, of course, if you're in the pits for too long, every 10th of a second counts and can make a difference.
Oh, unlucky break there for Wieshofer. Came out just behind Niederhauser there. Niederhauser exiting the pit lane, and well, to counter your point about him maybe staying out there, if he ends up in a lot of traffic from drivers coming back out onto the pits, he might say, well, actually, it might be better off to try and find some space on the track with my good colleague, Mr. Lapalainen, at the wheel. 48 car in, Raffaele Marciello is in, and that was quite an exuberant throw of the seat insert, wasn't it, from Lorenzo Ferrari? If he's that animated, I'm sure he and Raffaele are getting on just fine. Those two could well be a formidable duo with the season going forward. Lorenzo Ferrari, as you said, he is a champion in the Italian GT Endurance and Sprint Championships in an Audi, mind you. So in a Mercedes now, I believe for the first time under racing conditions in a Mercedes, and as he adapts to that car, I suspect he could be a force to be reckoned with, and no better tutor, I'd say, for Mercedes GT3 racing than Raffaele Marciello.
Yeah, I think if you're a winning driver, you're a winning driver. And Ferrari is clearly that. He's got the name to go with it, hasn't he? That's Ian Chen-Guven, who jumps in to replace Christian Engelhardt. Also, Sven Muller, who's taken over from Joel Sturm. Now, that car is under investigation. In fact, it's just been awarded a black and white flag for forcing another driver off the track. So it doesn't look like there's going to be any penalty for Joel Sturm, but now Muller takes over that car, and he will continue in the Allied Racing Porsche. He rejoins. We've still got 6 cars that have not pitted, but the one who has is our race leader, Mick Viesofer, into the pits. Now this is pressure for Konsta Lappalainen. Pressure like he hasn't experienced before, I should think. Their best result of the season so far has been a 7th place, and Konsta Lappalainen is going to be taking the wheel of the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini Huracan, and he will be rejoining. He should comfortably, all being well, get out in the lead of this race, because of all the hard work from Mick Viesofer building up that 8-second lead prior to the pit stops.
Fascinating to see just how close to the bone some of these teams are with releasing the car as they take them back out there. Of course, that 65-second minimum. Here we see Lappalainen coming across now, 0.4 of a second. That's cutting it quite thin. Raffaele Marciello was some 2 seconds late coming across the line there. And you might say, oh, 2 seconds, very trivial, isn't it? Well, no, because remember the pack that Lorenzo Ferrari was in before handing over to Raffaele Marciello. That could result in 1, maybe even 2 positions lost.
Or maybe even more. It really is very, very tight. Also, Jack Aitken, who's taken over from Albert Costa, about 1.5 seconds. That will feel like an eternity out on track. We've still got 5 cars out on circuit. Yusufa Vega leading the way from Arthur Rouget, Max Paul, Jesse Krohn and Thierry Vermeulen. They will need to pit within the next 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Everybody else has changed. So Lappalainen is the leading car of those that have changed, and Marshall second of the cars that have already pitted. We're looking at the number 44 car, and that is Jackson Evans, who has been very rapid indeed on his debut at the Red Bull Ring. It's his first time racing in this kind of series, and he's taken to it very well. Now that is the number 19 car of Arthur Rouget into the pits. He's handing over to Frank Pereira, and Pereira, a very experienced driver. They got a 2nd place in the season opener, Oschersleben, and in a fairly strong position in this race too. Ovega also into the pits, so we're just waiting for Jesse Krohn and Thierry Vermeulen to come into the pits, and then that will be all drivers stopped.
Yeah, so Frank Pereira, as you said, very, very experienced driver, lights up the rear tyres. They need to last another 27 minutes. He won't thank me for telling you this, but he's been racing for over 20 years at this point. 2003 Formula Renault Italy champion.
Wow.
Has been in GT racing now for well over a decade. Knows what he's doing. He comes out just behind that 71 car, the car from T3 Motorsport. Max Paul started. Now Marco Mappelli set to take the wheel, and they've now got the 91 car, Ian Chan Guven, splitting them on circuit.
So Mappelli, a real entertainer and a driver who's not scared to get stuck in. But Ian Chan Guven, who has taken to GT3 racing like the proverbial duck to water, he ain't hanging around, is he? I know, Adam, he was one of your pre-season tips for the championship, along with Christian Engelhardt, and he is proving why you tipped him in such a way. Guven and Engelhardt, they have been scoring very well in all but one race this season. Currently, Guven is in 8th place, and that Porsche once again dialed in, and they are looking really strong in this championship, Engelhardt and Guven.
I think, you know, I mentioned it at Oschersleben at the start of the year. He obviously, Ian Chan Guven, came from the world of the Porsche Carrera Cup. Now, those cars, they don't have ABS. They're a little more manual, a lot less aero as well than these GT3 cars. It can take you a while to trust the technology and understand how to get the most out of these cars. As we see Vermeulen running it very wide there. That's the penultimate corner of the lap as well. So I imagine that was the end of his in-lap. That's less than ideal. But to just circle back around to Guven, once you do get used to the tech that's available to you in a GT3 car, particularly the ABS, the traction control, that can soon make you a lot faster. It takes you a while to get there, but once you know what you're doing with the machinery, you get a lot faster, and Guven clearly is.
He really is. Thierry Vermeulen into the pits. It's Matthias Drudy who's going to be taking over. Remember, those tyres have got a fair bit of gravel on them still at the moment, so Drudy just needs to be careful on the outlaps. So all cars have now pitted. We have just seen the other of the Schubert Motorsport BMWs in, Jesse Krohn handing over to Nicky Katzberg. So it's Konsta Lapalainen who takes his position, the number 14 car at the front of the race once again. Dennis Marshall in the number 27 who took over in Kim Louis Schramm, the big winner in the pit stops. The 53 car, Simon Riker, Norbert Seidler. Seidler who's taken over from Riker in the top three. Now, if they can finish this in that position, this will be a heck of a result for them. They've not really troubled the top 10 since they debuted in GT Masters, but from here on, this partnership in this race looking very strong indeed. Ricardo Feller in the Monteplas by Land Audi in 4th place. And Jackson Evans, that's a strong performance in the ID Racing Porsche, rounding out the top 5.
Yeah, that car's looked strong all race, hasn't it? They're on the ball coming into the session, as maybe some personnel not so camera-friendly, or at least not camera-willing, at least. Lapalainen, though, our race leader, would look at that advantage, though. He's got over the chasing pack 7.5 seconds. And Seidler, look at this, challenging for second place. Seidler has experience. He knows what he's doing. And Dennis Marshall is going to have to defend hard from the very, very experienced pilot of the 54 car.
Marshall, who has been pretty useful as a pilot himself over the last few years, has been getting better and better season by season. But Seidler, as we've already said, an experienced pilot, having taken over from Simon Riker, a lot less experienced, but a driver who's done a great job today. And Seidler has got his eyes on the second step of the podium. There is no doubt about that. Dennis Marshall has his mirrors full in the Rutronic Racing Audi in 2nd place. So Nicky Katzberg, just shown on our timing screens as having dropped down to 10th place. So Christopher Mies has found a route past him, and the BMW now just at the bottom of the top 10. The other of the Schubert Motorsport BMWs are championship leaders. 16th place for Niklas Kruten, so he's got a lot of work to do from there. Not long to do it in, 22.5 minutes plus 1 lap. This battle that we are witnessing here is for 2nd place. So the Allied Racing Porsche once again in the wars. Is that Patrick Niederhauser? It looks like it might be. And Sven Muller as well. And Niederhauser was 12th place, but he now moves up into 11th, having found a route past the Allied Racing Porsche.
Just getting another view of it there then from Jack Aitken in the 63 car, the Formula 2 race winner. Sitting there, of course, the former Williams F1 driver, and watching that go on, he'll be looking now for an opportunity to get past Sven Muller as well. Meanwhile, Norbert Seidler continues to try and find a way around Dennis Marshall. I think it's really time of the essence as well for Seidler, because for every lap that he's trying to get around Marshall, Ricardo Feller is getting closer by 2 or 3 tenths a lap, and Ricardo Feller, obviously, our reigning champ, he knows what he's doing.
And as long as Dennis Marshall is defending from Norbert Seidler, Konsta Lapalainen is pulling away at the front. 7.2 seconds is the gap between 1st and 2nd. That is a decent gap that gives him time just to put his feet up a little bit, really, because he is a long, long way ahead of this fight here. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, now running together on track. And as you've just already said, Ricardo Feller, a very experienced pilot who is currently very much on the crest of a wave. And he is going to be attacking that duo very shortly. It's Audi versus Audi versus Audi. So we're going to see which of the R8s comes out on top. You've got about, well, just a little over 20 minutes to find out the result of that one. Let's watch it as they head into turn 13 and then up onto the steep banking of Lyondike. Steep it really is. You had trouble getting up there yesterday, didn't you? It's a very steep bank, giving them a great launch out onto the pit straight, up into turn 1, which is also quite heavily banked, and you don't really see it from that angle. But the Tarzan turn 1, also allowing the drivers to take a lot of speed in towards turn 2, and then back on the banking again for turn 3. and then foot to the floor all the way up to Rob Slopemaker, which is the corner, which is turn 6. A blind crest as they come up over towards Scheivlak, and down and up, lots of undulation around turns 6 and 7 and towards turn 8.
Is a fabulous circuit, isn't it? Flowing and fast at various parts of the circuit. It is, of course, very much right-hand centric, this circuit, which means those left-hand Pirellis are getting more and more worn as the race goes on, especially through the section they've just come out of now. 7, 8, 9, all very fast right-hand bends, and that means there's a lot of force going through the left side tyres. Meanwhile, Patrick Niederhauser all over the back of Nicky Katzberg. We've seen him already dispatch Sven Muller in the last couple of laps. Raffaele Marciello behind Jack Aitken too at the moment. Once again, it seems as though 10th place down is where all the fights are taking place.
So Marciello will once again have steam coming out of the ears, I should think. He's behind Jack Aitken, who's in 13th. And you can see this fight here. Sven Muller at the front of it, then Aitken, then Marciello, and then Marcus Winkelhock. Those first 4 cars all running together on the circuit. But Marciello, he's not famous for his patience, it has to be said. Black and white flag has been shown to the 3rd place car of Norbert Siedler for a pit stop infringement. The explanation is driving on work. I'm guessing that the timing screen probably is not giving us the full message.
No, I think what that probably means is as he exited the pit lane, he spent a bit too long on the apron rather than going into the fast lane. That's more than likely what that means. But they've decided it's only black and white flag worthy as Marciello is getting around Jack Aitken, forced the way through there. Sven Muller was very slow there on the banking, and it's cost Jack Aitken because here comes Winkelhock as well. I think Aitken had to kind of get out the throttle to avoid the rear end of Sven Muller's Porsche, and well, he's cost himself 2 places as a result. I
thought Marciello was going to take Muller as well, actually, up on the banking. Marciello, he doesn't take prisoners, does he? And he is trying to move forwards from what has been another troublesome race. They were pre-championship favourites in that team. Marciello, who has changed his co-pilot for this race. Jonathan Aberdeen, who was his co-pilot in rounds 1 and 2. Not too sure what will happen for round 4. Ferrari has done a great job so far. Marciello has to pick it up and move it forward. Sven Muller, another very experienced Porsche driver. He's going to have to work hard to keep Marciello behind him. Marciello will pretty well be pushing him round the corner. So Sven Muller in 12th place. A little way back from Niederhauser. You can see Niederhauser just disappearing off out of the right of the screen. Sven Muller with a Marciello Lello in his mirrors in the black yellow Mamba, trying to close in on the car in front. But now Winkelhock also getting involved. Marcus Winkelhock, another vastly experienced driver in the Audi, and behind there Jack Aitken will be looking to come back at it.
Amazing stuff. You also see the race laps for Wales and Africa tally up over 16,400 euros. It's gone up 2K since we last saw it. Amazing stuff as that drive and initiative continues. Plenty of drive and initiative on Raffaele Marciello, as we've alluded to. Sven Muller's front splitter is dragging now on the right-hand corner. I think it was a bit dislodged before, and as the bumps have continued to fight against the car now, he really is struggling for front grip, front downforce, because there is a lot of damage now to the front of that car. Marciello will be getting held up, as will everyone behind them, and that gives Patrick Niederhauser the opportunity, of course, to scrap with this man, Nicky Katzberg, free of any stress from behind. Katzberg holding on to 10th overall, which is, of course, where Jesse Krohn got the car too in the early couple of laps of the race. This number 20, the senior Schubert car, if you will, relative to the championship leading 10 car, which is the juniors of the outfit. And well, I'm keeping an eye on that Muller battle, but also on this one for 10th and 11th, because Niederhauser wants to try and take this opportunity.
That battle between Katzberg and Niederhauser is about a second and a half up the road from Sven Muller. How long will Sven Muller be able to hold off the yellow Mamba with the damage to that Porsche? There's a bit of smoke coming off as the bodywork is dragging. Surely that car is ailing, and I'm surprised that Marciello hasn't jumped past already, because the Mercedes clearly has more pace. Marciello just biding his time. It's not like him. As he tracks Muller up the banking. Now, is this the opportunity? Not really, because overtaking on this part of the circuit, it is narrow, it's undulating, and there are not opportunities to get past. All he can do is try and force Muller into a mistake. You can see the splitter hanging on that car, but all the while Marciello has to be careful, because if he makes a move on Muller and it doesn't stick, Winkelhock will be through.
Funny that Muller and Katzberg are still close to each other out there on circuit. It was the 22 and the 20 car having a little bit of a kerfuffle that's led to that damage on the front end of the car anyway. Oh, and that, I think, just got a lot worse, because Muller did not get turn-in at all through turn 10. I think that front damage is now really starting to hamper his turn-in, at least into left-hand bends. And Sven Muller is surely ripe for picking for Raffaele Marciello.
I will tell you, as a fact, Marciello will be steaming in the cockpit of that car as they head out of the chicane and towards turn 13 once again. Now, this is his best opportunity, but the Porsche just seems to have the legs up out of the Banks Lyondike turn and onto the pit straight. It just seems like the Mercedes doesn't have the grunt to be able to pick up the slipstream and get past, and that's the best overtaking opportunity. But it seems to be the point where Muller is able to pull away from Marciello. Winkelhock now under pressure once again from Jack Aitken after that little fumble to get past. Jack Aitken will be putting all that he can into getting past that car. Now here we go again, Muller with Marciello inside, but still Muller holds on. Marciello trying all that he can. It seems to be in this part of the circuit where overtaking is the hardest, where he can close up, and that is where that Porsche is handling the worst because of that damage. But of course, out on the pit straight, then the damage at the front is less significant when they're grunting down towards turn 1.
So Sven Muller, of course, a champion in Porsche Carrera Cup Germany, a champion in the Porsche Super Cup. He will not lie down for anyone. And Raffaele Marciello is finding that out firsthand. It's a joyous battle, even with one of the cars walking slightly wounded. Meanwhile, Jack Aitken, he's trying to regain some of the positions he lost earlier, and he's managed to get one of them. Winkelhock falls down behind Aitken once again. The 84 car is behind Winkelhock. That's a lap down in the hands of Seppänen, but I don't think Marcus got the memo there, because he allowed him through. Or maybe he did and thought, well, if Mr. Seppänen wants to push through the pack and allow me to follow, then I'll gladly do so.
Yeah, I mean, it's choose your battles wisely, isn't it? Oh, and it looks like he's got a problem, doesn't it? Because Marcus Winkelhock now coming into the pit lane, so clearly some issues going on for the number 69 car. That is a real shame, because they have been entertaining and in the battle. The Car Collection Motorsport Audi coming into the pits, and it looks as though the afternoon is over for Marcus Winkelhock, having taken over from Florian Spengler. All that hard work comes to nothing. Into the pits they come, and door open, driver out, and it looks like game over for Marcus Winkelhock. And that releases the 2 lap down Elias Seppänen car, 1 lap down now Elias Seppänen car, to close in on whoever's in front of him. Our leader is still Constant Lapalainen. I know we haven't seen much of him. That's because he's out there on his own. There he goes. And then we just wait. Thumbs twiddled. There we go. 4.7 seconds. That's what 4.7 looks like on TV. Dennis Marshall in second. Norbert Siedler in third. Ricardo Feller fourth. Great drive from Jackson Evans in 5th place ahead of Ein Guven.
Yeah, Jackson Evans putting in a great performance. He's won in Porsches just about everywhere he's gone. Just to say, Lapalainen still losing time. A 1:36.4 last time by, relative to a 35.5 for Marshall. So those 3 cars in 2nd, 3rd and 4th, the trifecta of Audis, are indeed closing in on the Lambo. Let's see if that continues on as this race heads to its conclusion. Just back around to Jackson Evans, though, in that 44 car. The ID Racing Porsche being driven by the Kiwi at the moment. That's a 20 car. That's Katzberg, and that car is hugely damaged on the front left corner. Now, where did that happen? That car is clearly not going to go much further today.
So, a lot of damage there. He's made contact with somebody. It looks like it was Patrick Niederhaus who gave him, well, I was going to say, it gave him a little kiss on the way past. That's a full-on snog, isn't it? They banger racing, possibly out of turn 12 towards 13. Bits of both cars flying there. And I don't suppose the Niederhauser car is going to be as handling as well as it might have done after that, because that was quite an impact between those two cars. I think the stewards might be having a look.
It continued on for the entire final sector. The all-out warfare between Niederhauser and Katzberg. Under investigation, you'll be completely flabbergasted to hear. Yeah, unfortunately, that Nicky Katzberg car is looking very much worse for wear. I think that last instance of contact took the suspension with it, unfortunately. I think it was more than just bodywork. But goodness me, that was very physical racing indeed between those two. That, of course, promotes everyone who was behind upper position. No consolation for Raffaele Marciello, though. Yes, he's got up to 12th place, but he's still behind Sven Muller.
So our leader, Konsta Lappalainen, has just lost about another half a second to Dennis Marshall. There is just over 9 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining. So Lappalainen benefiting from that big gap that Mick Wieshofer built up at the beginning of the race.
And Schubert Motorsports' luck gets worse still. The 10 car coming home with what looks to be a puncture there. Nicholas Cruton with damage to the left rear corner of the car. And well, let's hope he gets it around. It looks like it's very slow indeed. I think he's just making sure the bodywork isn't too damaged. But
I'm just going to say, I hope he hasn't run over the debris from the Katzberg car, because that would be double insult. And there was an awful lot of debris that went flying as a result of that, and that really would be a double whammy for Schubert Motorsport if that is the case.
And of course this means, well, we're going to get a look at it now. Is this a collision with another of the Audis? Yes, it is.
Oh, that'll be where it came from.
Dear, that's where the puncture came from. And of course, this means our championship leading car coming into this race is going to be a non-score.
It was Christopher Haase that he got together with. Christopher Haase, the first ever champion in ADAC GT Masters in the Montpellier by Land Motorsport Audi. Haase currently in 14th place, and that's a smelly load of old smoke coming out of that as they open the door. But both Schubert Motorsport BMWs into the pits and retired from the race. Well, they're slowly dropping out. That's elevated Marciello up to 12th place. He's got his eyes on 11th. That is Sven Muller in front of him. This is a battle that has been raging for a while. Across the line they come. We're keeping an eye on our leader as well. 3.3 seconds between first and second. So Marshall still closing up, but he hasn't got a great deal of time in which to do it and then to get past. So Lappalainen still looking strong. Siedler in third place, some 8/10 behind Dennis Marshall. So that battle at the moment just settling down. This is one that is not settling down. The fight for 11th place. Sven Muller with the damaged Porsche. He looks quite chilled and calm about it all, really, doesn't he? Marciello, I bet you he doesn't look as calm as that inside the yellow Mamba. And I should think Lello will be steaming. You can see Melle Muller looking in his mirror in the background. Jack Aitken ready, willing those two cars to get together so that he can nip past both of them.
The unblinking Sven Muller. Don't enter a staring contest with him. Raffaele Marciello is entering a racing contest, though. He's always in a racing contest. Not just because he's at a track pretty much every weekend. Marciello all over the back of the 22 car. Sven Muller at this stage. Muller looking in the rearview mirrors occasionally, but he's laser focused on what's going on. He took a couple of bites to turn in there. I thought for a minute he might have had Raffaele Marciello on the inside of him, but not quite. These 4 cars, well, it's 3 cars for position, I should say, having a good scrap here in the closing minutes of the race. Grandstand viewing as ever whenever Raffaele Marciello's in combat.
That Allied Motor Racing Porsche is not handling through those corners in the back part of the circuit, is it? You can see him wobbling and struggling to keep it pointing in the right direction. But a look at Marciello under braking. He gets it all wrong, locks up under braking. And now is he going to lose the position, because Jack Aitken has been waiting for his opportunity to work his way past the Mercedes in front of him up on the banking, and Marciello has gathered it all up together again. and continues in that position. But for one moment, it looked like Aitken was going to get past.
It did. He tried to dive to the inside there at Hugenholtz, and that would have been great for him because that's exactly how Raffaele got past him in the first place. I'm sure that would have been sweet irony in the eyes of Jack Aitken. We currently ride in the Jack Cam on board with Jack Aitken. Of course, he's got undue pressure from Seppänen behind, and I wonder whether maybe there's a little bit of a Landgrafen alliance that may come into play here as Elias Seppänen sits there just behind Jack Aitken. Could well be the spoiler his teammate needs.
It's a yellow mamba sandwich with an Aitken-flavoured filling, and Sven Muller is just stretching his legs a little bit at the front because suddenly the hunted becomes the hunter, and suddenly the hunted is hunted down. Get your hunts mixed up. Raffaele Marciello and Jack Aitken is suddenly having to drive defensive. You know what I'm saying. At the front, Konsta Lappalainen's lead is down to 2.8 seconds. We have well under 5 minutes of this race remaining, so he's still looking pretty solid at the front. Don't think he'll be disappointed to see the checkered flag. Aitken once again looking to the inside of Raffaele Marciello. Into the corner they come. Marciello has that one covered off. But Jack Aitken, that Lamborghini, very strong here. I would say out of position in terms of pace. Up to turn 3 they go. Aitken cuts back to the inside. He's not going to get past there. Surely they run up the hill. It's a blind crest. Aitken on the inside. He cannot get past there. Surely, yes, he can. It takes a brave man to get around the outside of Raffaele Marciello. I expect you'll be able to see the grin on Aitken's face. You can see his eyes go wide. He's laughing inside there, isn't he? Up to 12th place goes Aitken. What a fantastic overtaking that was from Jack Aitken.
What a stellar manoeuvre that was. Aitken carried all the speed in the world out of Hugenholtz, set him up for the move at turns 4, 5 and 6. Here you see a replay of it. They go side by side, and watch this, a stab at the brake on the inside here from Aitken. Did well to keep the car gathered together. Then though, Marciello had to stab the brakes a little bit harder, allowed Aitken through. Aitken really gave Raffaele Marciello no choice.
You have to get up pretty early in the morning to get around the outside of Marciello into Rob Slotemaker, but that's exactly what has happened as we look at our leader. Konsta Lappalainen, right, the gap between first and second, 2.294, but there are just 2.5 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining. I should think that Mick Wiesover's nails are probably down to nothing by now. He'll be in the pits biting his nails and worrying about that lead that is coming down. But Konsta Lappalainen just needs to keep doing what he's doing at the front, and Dennis Marshall will struggle to get past him. Siedler in a solid 3rd place, Ricardo Feller in 4th. We're looking at Ayhancan Guven, and we saw Jackson Evans going through just ahead of him. But Ayhancan Guven now with Marco Mappelli. We've already seen the Lamborghini is very strong around here, and there's Franck Pereira and Christopher Mies. And Christopher Mies is putting the pressure on Franck Pereira.
Okay, so let's see if Pereira can hold off Mies, another one of the defending champions from last year, of course. The split between Feller and Mies, amicable, we're told. But Christopher Mies with the new project, as it were, moving into this #1 car along with his new teammate Tim Zimmerman, and he would love to get a top 10 on the board. He's currently set to do it in 9th place, but if he can get past Pereira, of course, all the more points, all the better for Christopher Mies. And let's see if he gets the run in the first few corners of the lap.
Gap from first to second down to 1.8 seconds as we look at Christopher Mies continuing to fill the mirrors of Franck Pereira. But that gap at the front, 1.8 seconds. I should think Dennis Marshall was wishing that this race was an hour and a half long rather than just an hour, because he is closing in on that Lamborghini in front of him. Lappalainen, though, is doing all that he needs to do just to stay in front. Norbert Siedler not out of the running entirely. He is just 9/10 of a second behind Dennis Marshall. That's the 1, 2, 3, the podium positions. Ricardo Feller, a solid 4th place, some 2 seconds behind the 1, 2, 3. Then Jackson Evans and Ayhancan Guven in that yellow and blue Porsche. He has been followed by Marco Mappelli and Franck Pereira. It's very much as you were. Mick Wiesover Yeah, you may well cross your fingers. Mick Wieshofer looking for his first win in what will be a very long time in ADAC GT Masters. I'm going to have to dig the record books out for that one. The number 14, oh, I can see my colleague at the side of me already scrolling. The number 14, Emil Frey Lamborghini. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, fill in your picture there. But the clock is about to strike 0 and out to complete another lap. That'll be lap 36 that he's about to complete. Konsta Lapalainen out along the pit straight. And the clock has struck 0. I think it got to 0 before he got to the line. And so this will be his final lap. And that, after all that fighting, Matthias Drudy with smoke coming from the car. Is that a puncture? I think it might be. There's an awful lot of debris out on the circuit. So having taken over from Thierry Vermeulen, Matthias Drudy looks like he's going to drop out of the points. The car leading the way, though. Konsta Lapalainen, having taken over from Mick Wieshofer, having started on pole position after that dramatic start on a slippery circuit that saw Jan Marszałkowski not even able to take the start following a collision in turn 2. The race finally got going and has been an exciting race all the way through. And it's Konsta Lapalainen and Mick Wieshofer who have dominated this race in the Emil Frey Racing Lamborghini Huracan. Dennis Marshall and Kim Louis Schramm have done all that they can in second place, but not been able to close in. And a very solid first stint from Kim Louis Schramm, putting him up into that position. Third place, Norbert Siedler, along with Simon Riker, looking for their best finish as a partnership in ADAC GT Masters. But the headlines today are going to be Mick Wieshofer and this man here, Konsta Lapalainen, into the Arie Luyendyk turn for the very last time out onto the pit straight. It's Konsta Lapalainen for Emil Frey Racing, who wins race 5 of the season for the ADAC GT Masters. A sigh of relief from Mick Wieshofer and a big shout for East Talent Racing. That third place, very solid indeed, with Norbert Siedler and Simon Riker. Second place, Dennis Marshall and Kim Louis Schramm. A great drive for them in the Rutronic Racing Audi, the 2019 team champions, coming home with a solid haul of points.
So that's only the second win in the series for Mick Wieshofer. The previous win coming in 2020 with Team Zach Speed at the Lausitz Ring, round 12 of the 2020 season. So just win number 2, and I'm sure an important one for Wieshofer and Lapalainen will put them right back up the points, of course, still in this relatively early stage of the season.
So both of these drivers have come through the ranks of the ADAC Formula 4, and they are drivers who are very much part of the ADAC family, and just shows what a great training ground the Formula 4 series is. So both of them having come through that and moved their way up to the big league, the League of Super Sports Cars, and this is the icing on the cake. Konsta Lapalainen, it's certainly his first win in the series, and he will be delighted with that. Mick Wieshofer doing all the hard work in qualifying, but Konsta Lapalainen doing a great job as he took over that car after the mandatory pit stop and just kept it in front, did all that he needed to do. He could have pushed too hard, ended up in a gravel trap, and ended up with nothing. 37 laps in the books, and there is your classification. Wieshofer and Lapalainen from Kim Louis Schramm and Dennis Marshall, with Simon Riker and Norbert Siedler in third place. Had a Yusufa Vega, Ricardo Feller, Janis Fischer, Jackson Evans, Christian Engelhardt, Einchen Guven, Max Paul and Marco Mapelli, and Arthur Rougier and Frank Pereira rounding out the top 8.
9th place then for Zimmerman and Mies in the number 1 car. Luca Engsler and Patrick Niederhauser eventually taking 10th place, holding on to 11th no matter what was thrown at him. Sven Muller, the Aitken Balboa car, for it rounding out the top dozen. And look at that DNF tally. The 2 Schubert cars both in within about 2 minutes of each other. It was certainly a dramatic day, and maybe there's a sign of things to come. They seem to have lost the 4 there for a moment there. In fact, I think that might actually just
the
be the sun, isn't it? But look, for the life of me there, that the Lapalainen car had the #1 on it for a moment.
Amazing.
And, well, today, they are #1.
They really are, and you can see how delighted they are. Some significant non-scorers or low scorers in that race. Going to have to get the abacus out to work out the points for tonight, because the points championship is going to be turned on its head after that race. I think actually, you know, the big success is the number 54, East Talent Racing, taking their first win in the championship. Norbert Siedler, yes, an experienced pilot. Simon Riker, definitely a man on a mission and a man coming through the ranks. Peter Riker, of course, is the boss of that team, and his son Simon at the wheel of it. And that is Consta Lapalainen receiving the congratulations from Mick Wieshofer. Solid job. He kept his head, kept it all together, and a brilliant job done by the duo. Dennis Marshall, Kim Louis Schramm in second. I was just looking up at a useless statistic. East Talent Racing is made up of the syllables of the words leasing, rental, and event.
Ah, okay. I wonder what their business is.
I think they're bakers.
Ah, okay.
Yes, anyway, moving on. So, the drivers into the Parc Ferme, and great relief there, and it's just a solid drive. Dennis Marshall, a driver who has been getting better and better every season. He's always had good machinery under him, but he's a driver who learns and just gets better. And I have no doubt that Marshall, if he's not a challenger for the title this year, will be a challenger soon, but I certainly wouldn't rule him out of this year's title. And that's second place. Very solid, just always there or thereabouts. Also, just making a note of Ian Changuven and Christian Engelhardt, sixth place, yet more points. And apart from race 2 at Oschersleben, they've finished in the top 6 in every race this season so far. And it's consistency that wins championships.
Yes, so the race wins aren't everything, as we can see. I mean, looking at the number of different winners we've had so far this year, our latest one taking the flag there, and from crossed fingers to punched fists there for Mick Wieshofer. Very, very happy to see his Finnish colleague cross the line.
Brilliant stuff, and a great slow-mo there, and there he is. Yeah, if you did that with me, you put your back out. So
if you did it with me, you'd be in the hospital.
My lips remain sealed. So there we go. The flags flapping in the breeze for the number 14 car, the Finnish driver and the Austrian driver. A great partnership, and Emil Frey, well, they are a potent combination in GT racing, and they have put together a great car. Now, it is the first Emil Frey Racing victory in GT Masters, isn't it? Yes. Yes, so they've had podiums, but it's their first time on the top step. So a great job by Emil Frey. They've come into the series this year, and they have been competitive from the word go. You'd expect it from a team such as Emil Frey, but they really have done a fabulous job here on their debut in the ADAC GT Masters. So sorry, carry on.
Just, I was going to say, in fact, Iken and Pereira were with Emil Frey last year, weren't they? And they won a race. Were they not?
No,
okay,
that was with GRT
I'm
Grasser.
getting my teams
yes,
mixed
that was with
up.
GRT Grasser.
Ah, dear.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, that would be their first win. It's also the fourth different win in 5 races. Fourth different car that's won a race in 5. Obviously, we got that big performance at the Red Bull Ring from the Schubert Motorsport guys, which put them into the championship lead, but no more for that number 2 Schubert car, and they'll be hoping for better fortunes tomorrow. To be fair, I don't think they could have a much worse day than they had yesterday in either of the Schubert Motorsport garages.
Yes, and it all started to unravel from the moment qualifying started, to be quite honest. Of course, they will lose that success ballast for tomorrow's race, so already the cars will be lighter, and that will help them. Of course, qualifying tomorrow, who knows what the weather conditions will be. The forecast here, well, when they said it's going to be sunny, it's rained, and when they said it's going to rain, it's been sunny, so I've stopped looking. I've just hung a bit of seaweed out of the side of the commentary box. I'm looking at that at the moment. He said congratulations in the pit lane from the drivers. Rutronic, of course, a team who won the championship on their debut year in 2019, and they had Kelvin van der Linde and Patrick Niederhauser at the wheel back in those days. But this particular combination is proving potent as well. Kim Louis Schramm, I talk about Dennis Marshall, a driver who gets better and better. Same Kim Louis Schramm, he's a driver who was, you know, okay at the start, but he has been steadily improving, and I'm looking at the results of those drivers. Apart from a disqualification in race 1 at Red Bull Ring, they have finished in the top 9 every race this year. That is the 3rd place, their highest ever for East Talent Racing, the number 54 Simon Riker and Norbert Siedler. In 2nd place, Kim Louis Schramm and Dennis Marshall for Rutronic Racing. Momentary lapse of thinking. And the winners of race 5 of the season, Mick Viesofer and Konsta Lapalainen, the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo for Emil Frey Racing. So looking at the weather conditions is like a completely different day for when these cars were lined up in the pouring rain just a little over an hour ago, and it just shows how quickly things can change here on the North Sea coast, because it's a glorious sunny day at the moment and there are blue skies up above. I should think there'll be a few drivers who'll be hoping it stays like that until the end of the race tomorrow. Onto the podium we come, the 3rd place, the number 54 crew, Simon Riker and Norbert Siedler, the Austrian duo for East Talent Racing. And now here come Kim Louis Schramm and Dennis Marshall. Solid points. They'll be ruining that disqualification they had from race 1 at Red Bull Ring last time out, because they've been solid in the points. But the drivers who have stolen the headlines from the get-go, they put it on pole position in the hands of Mick Viesofer. Konsta Lapalainen took over after the mandatory stop, and they stand on the top step of the podium. We just wait for a representative from Emil Frey to stop shaking everybody's hands, and then we'll be ready for the national anthem. No, I was short.
It was, isn't it? They found their pause point and they stuck with it.
I was waiting for verse 2.
So that, of course, is the 14 car taking the win. And just the 2nd time this season that we have had our pole sitters take the race win. The first time was, of course, our last race, race 2 at the Red Bull Ring for the all-dominant that weekend, number 10 ADAC Motorsport duo. I mentioned him a little earlier on, our 5-time windsurfing champion, Philip Costa, presenting the trophies. He presented the 60-second board for the engines to go earlier on today. Busy man. They're getting their money's worth inviting him to Zandvoort.
Eric Weijers, the Chief Sporting Officer of Zandvoort, who presents the 2nd place trophy, and he will be delighted with the show that has been put on by the ADAC this weekend. And as indeed is the very large crowd that has stood on the sand dunes here at Zandvoort, enjoying what is the sunshine at the moment, and hoping it stays the same. Luca Badour and his son, who is racing in ADAC Formula 4 this weekend. Of course, the ex-Formula 1 driver presenting the 3rd place trophies. I have the dubious distinction of accidentally blanking him yesterday in my haste to go and speak to Emerson Fittipaldi. But apologies, Luca. Now that I recognise you, I won't blank you again.
I was going to say, because of the ADAC Formula 4 Championship, there are some serious contenders for podium presentation candidates, aren't there, around the paddock, be it the Elder Wirtz, the Elder Fittipaldi, or indeed the Elder Badoa. Let's see who we've got tomorrow.
I haven't seen Alex Wirtz around yet. He might be on other duties.
To be fair, he's quite tall.
He towers above everybody. So trophies are presented. We need to take the photos. Oh no, look at that for the championship. So Yusufa Vega, how much pressure on his young shoulders? The driver who who doesn't win it, he leads the championship by 10 points on his own, and then a four-way tie for second place. Your tip, Adam, Engelhardt and Guven, very much in there. You said this to me before the first wheel had turned of the season. You said, this is my tip. And you have, yeah, it's looking pretty solid, I have to say. Anyone who wondered whether Engelhardt, well, Guven was going to take to GT3 racing, well, he's answered that question fairly comprehensively, hasn't he? So, celebrations amongst the drivers in the sunshine.